Hello viewers, welcome again to example 4 on the simplification of SURD that I started with you in the previous videos. In the previous videos, we started learning about SURD and we've done a detailed explanation of what SURD is, and also we've solved some examples on the simplification of SURD, and I hope you all understood it and you enjoyed the lesson as well. So this is a continuation to solve another example with you so that you get a perfect understanding of it. So I will advise that you watch the previous videos because the previous videos lays the foundation, the basic knowledge and understanding that you need about SURD and the simplification of SURD. I've done all those explanations in the first video. Okay, so do well to watch the first video and all the other videos that I've done as well, so that you can easily handle this session as well. As I said, this is just a continuation. You can see from the board that this is example 4. It means we've already done example 1, 2, and 3 in the previous videos. Okay, so do well to watch them so that you can easily handle this session as well. And please don't forget to like the video and also share them after watching. Let's go ahead and solve the example 4 that I have on the board. So example 4, it says without using calculator, simplify A, square root of 96, and B, square root of 162. Okay, so it says without using a calculator, we should simplify the SURD that we have on the board. Okay, so it means that when we type this on the calculator will give us a straight answer, but we are not going to use a calculator. Okay, we are going to go through the process that I've shown you in the previous video. Okay, and we are going to solve it and we will arrive at the same answer that the calculator is going to give you. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it together. So let me write my solution on the board and let's do it together. So I have square root of 96. Okay, so I'm to simplify this one, and in the previous videos I've explained to you that for you to simplify this one, the first step is that you look for two numbers that can multiply to give you back the 96. But those two numbers that can multiply to give you back the 96, one of it needs to be a perfect square. Okay, and I hope you know what a perfect square is because I've explained it to you, okay, in the first video. Okay, so we are just applying that knowledge here. Okay, so let me go over one more time. Okay, for us to simplify this one, the first step is that we look for two numbers which can multiply to give you back the 96, but those two numbers, one of it needs to be a perfect square. Okay, one of it needs to be a perfect square. We know that there are many numbers that can multiply to give you back the 96. Okay, many two possible numbers that can multiply to give you back the 96, but you have to look for the one which has a perfect square in it. Those two numbers that can multiply to give you the 96, one of it needs to be a perfect square. Okay, so you can list all the two possible numbers that can multiply to give you the 96. You can list all of them down. Okay, then you select the one which has a perfect square in it. Okay, and I've done an example of it in the previous videos. Okay, but in this session I'm not going to list all the possible two numbers down, okay, because I believe by now you understand it. Okay, so you can go through that process. So I'm going to give you the two numbers that can multiply to give you the 96 straight away. Okay, but having one of it as a perfect square. Okay, so the 96, the two numbers that can multiply to give you the 96, and having one of the numbers to be a perfect square is going to be 16 times 6. Please hope you agree with me. 16 times 6 gives the 96, and the 16 is a perfect square. Okay, so I hope you agree with me up to this point. So in place of the 96, we are going to write 16 times 6. Okay, so that's how to go about it. So let's go ahead and simplify. So I'll bring my equal to them, bring your square root. Okay, then the 96, I'll write it as 16 times 6. Okay, so in place of the 96, I'll write 16 times 6. I hope you agree with me up to this point. Okay, and we've explained that when you have it like this, the next step is that the square root affects everything in here, okay? Everything under the square root will affect it. So the square root will affect the 16 and the square root will affect the 6 as well, okay? So this is how to write it, okay? We are going to separate them. Since the square root affects the 16 and also the square root affects the 6, we are going to separate them by writing it like this. So it's going to be root of 16. Your sign here is times, so bring your times, okay? Then your root of 6, okay? So the square root affects the 16 times the square root affects the 6 as well, okay? Now we know the answer for the square root of 16. The square root of 16 is 4, okay? So let's put our answer there. So 4, okay, times the square root of 6. We will not get a whole number as an answer for square root of 6. So you just repeat your square root of 6 like this, okay, as we have been doing in the previous videos, okay? So this is what you are supposed to do, okay? Since we cannot get the whole number as an answer for the square root of 6, you just need to maintain your square root of 6. So write it back, okay? Now for here we need to multiply, okay? So simplify further by multiplying. So we have 4 times square root of 6, and that is going to give you 4. Okay, so you get 4 root 6, okay, and this becomes your final. Okay, I can see it's not clear from here, so let me clean it and continue from this side. Okay, so my final answer is going to be 4 root 6. Okay, so this is your final answer for simplifying the square root of 96. So if you type the square root of 96 on the calculator will give you a straight answer, which is 4 root 6. Okay, and I hope you understand this multiplication, the 4 times root 6. I've explained it a lot in the previous videos. Okay, so how the multiplication happens is that this one, okay, this 4, it multiplies the coefficient of this root 6. Okay, so the coefficient of this root 6 is 1. Since there's no specified number there, it means the coefficient is 1. So it is 4 times the coefficient of the root 6, which is 4. 4 times the 1, okay, it gives you 4. So it becomes 4 root 6 because they are multiplying. Okay, so that's how we conduct the multiplication, and I've explained it a lot in the previous videos. Okay, so I hope the explanation was clear enough and you understood it as well. Let's go ahead and handle the B that I have on the board. So the B, it says the square root of 162. We have to simplify it. Okay, so let me write my solution, okay, and we are going to go through the same process. Okay, so I have my square root of 162. Okay, we have to simplify this one. So we are going to look for 2 numbers that can multiply to give us back the 162, but one of the numbers needs to be a perfect square. Okay, again, you look for 2 numbers that can multiply to give you the 162, but those 2 numbers that can multiply to give you the 162, one of it needs to be a perfect square. Okay, so you can list all the possible 2 numbers down which can multiply to give you the 162, then you select the one which has a perfect square in it. Okay, so the 2 numbers is going to be 81 and 2. So 81 times 2, it gives the 162. Okay, please hope you agree with me up to this point. The 81 times 2 gives 162, and 81 is a perfect square, okay, because 9 squared gives 81. So 81 is a perfect square. Okay, so the 2 numbers we can use here is 81 times 81 times 2. Okay, 81 times 2. So 81 times 2 multiplies to give you the 162, and the 81 is a perfect square. As I've explained that one of the numbers needs to be a perfect square, and the 81 is a perfect square. So we will replace this 162 by 81 times 2. Okay, so bring your equal sign, bring your square root sign. Then our 162, we are going to write it as 81 times 2. Please hope you agree with me up to this point. Nothing difficult about it. I hope you understand this. Okay, so now the square root sign affects everything there as you have been doing. Okay, so the same process. So the square root sign will affect the 81 and also affect the 2. So you are going to write it as square root of 81 times square root of 2. I hope you agree with me to this point. Okay, so we break them down like this. As I've explained that the square root sign affects everything here. So the square root sign will affect the 81. Okay, then you bring your multiplication sign, then the square root sign will affect the 2 as well. Okay, now the square root of 81, we know the answer. So let's simplify further. Square root of 81 is 9. Okay, so you write your 9, then times. Now the square root of 2, we will not get a whole number as an answer for square root of 2. So just repeat your square root of 2. Okay, so 9 times square root of 2. Okay, now let's simplify further by multiplying. So 9 times square root of 2, it will give you 9 root 2. Okay, so you will get your final answer to be 9 root 2. So if you punch the 162, the square root of 162 on the calculator will give you a straight answer, which is the 9 root 2. So this is the process to go through to arrive at the answer. I hope the explanation was clear enough and you understood it as well. Please don't forget to like the video and also share the video as well. I'll see you again in another video whilst we solve other questions under the simplification of SURD. Bye bye.